For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh, and today we are going to go observe a cult. This is Opus. Opus depicts the story of an underappreciated magazine writer who gets invited to a once-in-a-lifetime event by a musician who shows up with a brand new record after 30 years, only to find out that they really are observing a cult. Make no mistake, this is probably going to go down as one of the most divisive films of this year. There's a lot of camp here. There's a lot of portions of this film that tonally it's all over the place. I'm going to address it in this video, but this for me is both of these camps are the reason that I really had a blast with this movie. For me, I really loved this movie from start to end. And no, that's not to say that this movie isn't littered with problems. And in fact, I would go ahead and get those out of the way. I talked earlier about how this movie just kind of feels like it doesn't really understand what it wants to be. And as a result of that, this movie also just kind of feels tonally displaced sometimes. I feel like this movie also thinks it's way scarier than it actually is. Like, it's a good psychological thriller, but this movie tries to also pinpoint other subgenres of horror and embrace those, and it just kind of comes across real messy and just kind of really sloppy at the end of the day. Also, as a result of this film's mistaken identity, another big thing too is there are portions of this film, probably mostly in the second act, where there is some dialogue that just comes across so laughably bad. And this, along with Malkovich's performance that I'll talk about in just a second, this is where the camp comes into place. And I don't know if that was intentional on the part of Mark Anthony Green or not. It's part of the reason that I really had a good time with this movie, but it's also the other reason that I understand the argument for this movie being a mess and being a bad film at the end of the day. Malkovich. This is probably one of the best performances that I have seen from Malkovich in quite a long time. I mean, he is just owning every scene that he is in, and there is just this level of boldness and bravery that I feel like I haven't seen from this actor in quite a long time. And on top of that, to note that he actually sings in this movie and does it well, not only continues his praises for this film, but also makes this world feel more authentic in that way. Also, this transformative aspect of Malkovich's performance that really just kind of makes you just fall in love with this character and his charisma, but also at the same time makes you fear him at the same time. And the way that this film ends, especially with Malkovich, is both frustrating and just kind of amazing at the same time. And that's honestly, if I had to sum this movie up in 2 words, it would be both amazing and frustrating. This film definitely has the makings of that first film, kind of written all over it. It definitely has a lot of those issues that you find from first-time filmmakers. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because this film shows a lot of promise for Green as a writer and director. And also at the same time, there's still a lot here. With this also being a cult movie, there is a lot of predictable moments here as well that were kind of frustrating a little bit, because I really would have liked them to kind of lean in a little bit more to the absurdity here, but they kind of played it safe for a lot of the film. There is one moment in particular where you think that they're getting ready to embrace the absurdity that A24 has become famous for, the limitless possibilities that you can do when it comes to cult movies. And it just kind of feels like they took the safest option, or safest version rather, of what an absurdity could be, but they also kind of spun it in a really unique way that also kind of goes back to the the duality of this being an amazing and frustrating film. Now, without getting into the spoilers, this film does feel like it is attempting to say something or serve as a commentary on a few different themes that are very timely in our world and in our culture, but it never kind of feels like it articulates itself properly, especially with how this film ends and ultimately the feelings that it leaves its audience with. Every great antagonist needs a prolific protagonist, and this film is no different. Ayo Edebiri holds her own against a legend like Malkovich in the most splendid and marvelous of ways. While I will say that some of her arc definitely falls into that predictability that I talked about earlier, her performance in this film is just absolutely on par with Malkovich and just really has such a beautiful through line from start to finish. Like, her character arc and her development were some of the best reasons that I really fell in love with this movie as much as I did. But Edebiri also just reminds us how she is one of the best actresses working in the industry currently right now. This movie also kind of feels like it's the passing of a torch from one of the legendary actors of the 90s and early 2000s into someone that is currently on par with them, acting modernly today. Before I jump into my Rorschach rating scale, I'm going to go over just a few things a little bit differently about this video. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and do the mental health portion of this video separately from the actual review, because the mental health themes that I want to talk about really dive into the spoilers. And so we're going to upload that on Monday. So hit that subscribe button so that you do not miss it if you have a chance to go see Opus this weekend. All right, and with that said, I am ready to run this one through our Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give Opus on our non-bias scale a 2.5 out of 5. But on an entertainment level, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4 out of 5. I think overall, I think this film is going to be very divisive. This is going to be one of those you either love it or you hate it films. There's not going to be a whole lot of gray. John Malkovich is incredible. Ayo Edebiri is fantastic in this movie as well. I love the music in this that Malkovich also produces. There's a lot of predictability on this. This one definitely falls to tropes and definitely also kind of just has these really frustratingly tonal inconsistencies. But I sum it up to say that at the end of the day, this movie is amazing, but it's also frustrating. It is of camp, and it's also trying to be a very serious horror film, and it kind of fails at both. But I'll be the first to say that that's actually why I had so much fun with this film and rated higher on an entertainment level than I did an actual level. Opus is now playing everywhere in theaters from A24. If you guys have seen it, comment below. Let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Am I crazy? Let me know. With that said, like I said, I'm going to be uploading a separate mental health spoiler video this upcoming Monday, March 17th. But in the show notes below, you guys will find links to our mental health resource library, along with links to our podcast network, more movie reviews like this, our social media, that subscribe button, and ways that you can also support us financially via Patreon as well as Paramount Plus. So until next time, remember to keep it creepy, keep it classy. Have a good night.